Well, welcome back, boys and girls, to New Stuff TV, your spot for infotainment for the average consumer. I'm your host, Antoine Bleeding Off the Edges Richardson, because today we're going to be checking out the 75-inch TCL QM8K. Now, I mentioned bleeding off the edges because that's pretty much what that thing does. So that's where we'll get started with this particular episode, with the design. Now, the QM8 is definitely one of the prettiest TVs I've seen this year, and the first thing I noticed when I took it out of the box was a slim metal bezel. Most TVs try to hide this by making them black, but the QM8K leans in on it with brushed metal. And then you notice it. There's almost no black border between the bezel and the actual screen or the display that you actually see. Now, this is what TCL is calling their zero border display, and I'm here for that all day. To me personally, it just gives the TV more of an elite aesthetic or status, and it just makes the overall viewing experience better in my opinion. But it also tells me that TCL is putting more into the appearance or the aesthetics of a TV, and that's really hard to do since it's basically just a giant rectangle sitting on top of your furniture. Now, for those of you who are going to be using the onboard TV speakers instead of an exterior audio setup, you're going to be really happy to know that TCL called in Bang & Olufsen to do the Atmos treatment. Hearing the voices of the people on screen is the most important thing, and the QM8 does that really well. But I'm really impressed with the integration of B&O's EQ technology being seamlessly baked in. Now, the new remote does match up with that nice metal bezel I keep fawning over, but if you look at it, you're going to see this TCL TV Plus button. Now, Google TV is the operating system, and of course you get a bunch of free content with free play and stuff like that, and the live channels that they have on there. But I like when manufacturers like TCL take matters into their own hands by giving you their TV service, because everything is right there. Here's why. Okay, let me explain it to you. So on Google TV, you got your live, and then you got your free play app. These are two different things that do the same thing when they're combined together in one spot. But when you go into it and you choose to watch something, you still inevitably end up having to log into something like, I don't know, Plex or Tubi or even Pluto TV. But with TCL TV Plus, it's just all right there. You don't have to worry about logging into apps and stuff like that. It's just like watching regular TV, even with like a TV guide built into here. Now, before you get all hyped up and start watching TV, you're gonna wanna do one thing. And this is just my opinion, but I think it applies to a lot of regular people. Go into the quick settings and put it into filmmaker mode. And I think this is going to be a nice general setting that people would like to watch regular TV on, and even a lot of movies. Up until you start watching sports, then you might want to change some stuff. But filmmaker mode, I think, is going to be a nice place for the average person to start and actually be pretty comfortable at. For those who like to fine tune and tinker with the picture, TCL threw in 3800 precise dimming zones and a whole lot of peak brightness. So battling off reflections and traveling from one side of the couch to the other, or even a chair off to the side of the room, is probably going to be some relatively light work for the QM8K. It's definitely not going to be nothing that'll ruin your experience as far as color shift and stuff like that. Now let's get into two movies we got to watch with this thing. The first one was No Country for Old Men. I'm actually beating myself for taking this long to watch it, because that is a brilliant movie. I absolutely loved it. So did the wife. Man, it just had this coldness and a grittiness to it, but it was shot in like the heat. Like it was the desert, you know what I'm saying, in Texas. I was in South Texas, somewhere like that. Anyways, great movie, brilliant picture, but the TCL QM8 really did a great job. Now, this movie had a lot of scenes that were shot almost blown out on purpose, because we're talking about a lot of sunshine here on sand, and it did a really great job pulling out the contrast between the people, the scenery in the background, and the clothing and stuff like that in those really bright scenes. And then when you get to the dark scenes, it does a great job too. It handles contrast really, really well. Now, the other one we watched the other day was Pacific Rim. Now, my wife doesn't really like sci-fi movies, but she loves me, so there's that. Anyways, that's another old one that I'd never seen before and finally got a chance to watch. Man, the colors. Well, we'll go to the action. That movie has so much action, and the QM8K kept up flawlessly with all that action. Like, no jitteriness, no nothing. It was just a brilliant performance across the board from front to back of that movie. But the display of the colors and the contrast and the fast moving stuff, all the lights, it was just crazy. When I watch TV, I'm just watching TV. I'm trying to, right? But I'm also trying to kind of analyze how the TV is performing with the things that are happening on TV. I have have zero complaints. The TV performed exceptionally well. Now, one thing I will give the QM8K some really high kudos on is the handling of the brightness in certain spots of the TV without blowing out any of the surrounding portions. That movie had a lot of bright spots, especially with all those colors and stuff and explosions, and the TCL QM8 handled that really well. Great movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely watch it. Now, I watched both movies in the dark and never noticed any gray or fuzzy areas where you're supposed to be seeing shadows with the highlights, and even in No Country for Old Men, since it already has that naturally grainy aesthetic. Now, something I wasn't expecting was TCL's art gallery. They call it T Exhibition, and once you click on it, you'll find out they got a bunch of free, yes, I said free pieces of art, and you can even curate a bunch of stuff through AI, and it looks really, really good on the TV. And like I said, I wasn't expecting this to be a part of the TV, but it was a really nice surprise. And when you see some of these art pieces matched up with that bezel and that zero border display, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Now, as soon as I get done talking to y'all, I'm gonna go back to playing Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. I like that game for just some general slicing and dicing action, you know what I'm saying? Anyhow, I can't think of a single TV I've checked out over the last 2 years that gave me an issue with gaming, and the QM8K is no exception. You can push it up to 144 Hz at 288 VR, and I'm sure all of you guys who are actually good at this stuff will have a great experience. Now, I'm gaming on a PS5, so I'm limited to dying at 120 Hz, but that VRR always comes in clutch. You know, every time I get an opportunity to talk to somebody from TCL, they make it a point to tell me that their TVs are built in-house pretty much from the ground up. And every time I turn on a TCL TV, it shows. The QM8K is one of the flagships for this year, and in my opinion, it's a tough one to beat for all the value that you get with it. And just before this video, I checked, and this one and every one of its competitors is on sale right now. But the QM8K is a hard one to pass over. Well, fellas, it's time for me to get back to my game, so make sure you close that door behind you. But before you go, be sure to hit that like button for me. Keep being good to each other, and I'll see you when I see you.